Hello and welcome. Angela Meiritz-Reid here, Stampin' Up demonstrator based in Christchurch, New Zealand. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to be making this card, which is for the Global Design Project. We're casing one of Stesha Bloodheart's gorgeous cards. All the products that I've used are available at my online store and are listed in the description box below. And I've also created a PDF tutorial which is available via my blog, and a link to my blog will also be in the description box. And I'm using the gorgeous Cottage Rose Stamp Set and the coordinating Cottage Flowers Dies. To start, I've got a very vanilla card base. I'll just fold that in half and burnish along the edge. And then the next layer I've got is Petal Pink, and the reason I chose these colours, they are the ones that are in the DSP. I just liked those colours, and it's sort of, sometimes it just takes the guesswork out of what colours to use. So I'm just going to emboss that piece of Petal Pink with the quatrefoil tile embossing folder. In and that through. So it doesn't jiggle the camera around too much. Right, and while I've got this here, so I'll just pop that there, I'm just going to die cut the next layer, which is the scalloped edge around here. So let's put that on. And a wee trick, if you pop these on an angle, then that when they cut through and get to the end, it won't do a big clunk, just be a little smoother. Those aside. So then what I'm going to do is adhere this to here, and you can use dimensionals or create one of my layering panels, which is just pieces of old cardstock. I use mostly the cardstock that comes out of the DSP. And just pop that on there. And then, so it's 3 layers I use. Pop that on there. Just gives you a nice flat layer. And you could do the same with this one. Just cut a smaller one, but I haven't got one prepared, so I'll just use dimensionals on the back of this. It's come off on my right. And then another wee trick, if you're quite good at getting it in the right place first time, that's good, but otherwise you can just add a bit of your glue just to the back of the dimensionals. Doesn't need to be much, just enough to give a bit of slip. And then when you place it down, if you're not sure whether it's right, like you get it down and it's a bit off, then because it's got the glue, you've got a few moments just to jiggle it around and make sure it's straight. Just with the dimensionals, they do stick quite quickly and well, so if you are prone to not be able to get them straight, that's a good wee trick. Next thing I'm going to do is stamp this floral image. I'm just going to use the Memento Tuxedo ink, which works with the blends. And inking. Stamp that onto that piece of very vanilla cardstock. And then I'm going to die cut that. And I'll just bring my mini machine for this job. See, it fits on here. Pop that on there. See, make sure it's in the right place, and then pop the top piece on and that through. It's always good when it comes out perfectly. It's a bit of a sigh of relief. And then what I'm going to do now is colour the flower in. So I've just got the balmy blue, the light balmy blue, and I'm just going to use the bullet end and just colour in those little seed heads, because there's no definite line. I'm just colouring over where they start and finish. That's that one done, really quick and simple. And for the centre here, I'm going to pop this dark so saffron in the middle, just to give it a bit of a deeper colour in the middle. Just doing little circular movements. And do make sure you pop your lids back on properly to stop some drying out. And then the same on here. I'm just going to go around, do that lighter colour on the edge there. And then I'll just do the leaves next. So I'm going to use again that bullet edge. I tend to use that for smaller areas. Just gives a bit more control. If you do go over the edge, you can use the colour lifter, which will take the colour out of the paper, but it does take a few goes to do that. So I always think it's better if I try and go a little bit slower in the beginning to avoid having to do that. And I'll just show you the back. It does bleed through a bit, but it doesn't matter. Be sticking it down. And there are a couple of options with colouring the leaf. You can either use a darker colour to add some definition to the card and shading, to the leaves at least, or you can just go over it again with the lighter one in the areas. So it depends if you want a more subtle look or a brighter look. So I just did quite a light look on that, so I didn't use the dark one. So what I did is just went, and the shading's already there, created by the Stampin' Up artist, so it does make doing this easier if you want to use those shading pieces. So that's all I'm doing, is just going over them with the light one again, just to give an extra layer of colour to those darker areas. And that's the beauty of this, you know, colouring in. You can look like an artist without doing too much, or you can, you know, colour it in and add some extra dimension and design, just however you like. So just go over a few of those again just to add a little bit extra. As I say, it is just really subtle. Probably not sure if you can really see that, and it does sort of bend as it dries. And then the same thing with the flower. I'm just going to use a light Stampin' Blends of the Petal Pink. I'm just going to go around the edge. Just gives you a bit of a buffer, I find, if you go around the edge first. It's a bit like painting, when you're painting a house with the walls inside. I always do the edges first and then with the paintbrush and then get the roller out. But actually the thicker end of my Stampin' Blends has been a bit too overzealously used. It's a bit not in a good way. So got that on my list to get a new one, so I'll just colour it in with this because I've got that buffer on the edge. It does make it a little bit quicker. And because this is quite a pale colour anyway, the dark one is still quite pale, so I'm just going to use that to add a bit of extra shading on those areas where it's got it there for me. Just add that darker petal pink. And you see, I'm not, you know, just sort of scribbling it on really, just to make it look sort of not too particular. But this flower lends itself to all sorts of colouring. You know, you can use the blends, the markers, watercolour, all lots of gorgeous ways of colouring it in. So that is all I've done. You could, if you want to make it more defined, just keep on going over it a few more times just to add a bit more depth to those areas. And if you did want, it will blend as it dries, but you can, if you wanted, go over it again with the lighter colour just to blend it in. And then one other little thing I do sometimes just to add a bit of light to it coming in is use the lifter, and just in those areas where the light would touch it, just scribble over a little bit and it will pick off that colour and take it away. So it just adds like a little bit of light. And that takes a wee while to develop. You could do that on the leaves a little bit too, just depending how particular you want to be. But that is it. So it is fairly quick and easy. And then I'm just going to pop that, some dimensionals on the back of that. And then that is just going sort of about here. And if you sort of averse to plain areas, you could splatter a bit of the petal pink on the background, but I chose to just keep it fairly plain this time. And then what we're going to do to create this bow, which as you can see it's got the very vanilla twine and this crinkled white, well it was white, so I'm just going to colour that. So I'm going to use the dark petal pink. And as I say, I'll show you mine. It's very, not very, looking very sad, but I'll just see if it will. There's still life left in it, but it's just been a bit used, not probably the correct way. But that's okay, they're for using. It's probably not showing up too much in the camera, but I'll bring it closer. can see, hopefully you can see there's a bit of variation. So just subtle, but it's nice to be able to coordinate the ribbon with your project. And you could go over it a couple of times if you wanted it a bit darker. And then what I'm going to do is add the Very Vanilla twine. So I'm just going to put those together. And then I'm going to tie a bow. I've got my both pieces there in the bow, and I'll just pop it over my finger just to get them even. And then once they're even, then I'll just try and give them a good pull evenly so I can make it the loops a little bit bigger. I have got this a little bit lopsided, got a bit more tail on one end, but that's okay, I'll just trim it. So just check that again, that's good. So then what I'm going to do is pop a glue dot down. I want that about here. And I'll just lay my bow. Make sure I've got my bits on the right side. So that just needs a little trim. It's a couple of, just a wee bit off here. I like to have it flowing off the edge. I always think that looks nice. And then a couple more things to do, just to do the sentiment. So I've got a small piece of the Petal Pink cardstock. I'm just going to use my epoxy Stampin' Emboss buddy to do that, and I'll stamp Happy Birthday on there and Versamark. And I've got the white Stampin' Goss powder. And I'll just heat and set that, won't be a moment. And then lastly, I want to just trim that down a little bit. If you have a die that works for that, that's a good idea too. This will just trim this down with the trimmer. This really works well. You can take it down, things down to a really small size, and even take off fractions if it's just slightly the wrong size. So that I want to add over the bow with some dimensionals, and it's quite high. So what I'm going to do is just pop one here and one here, because the bow is going to sort of keep it up. And then I'm going to take the backs off those and pop another one on top, so it's too high. So it's 2 dimensionals high, and I'll just check that, sit that over that and just see. Yeah, that's going to clear it nicely. So I've got enough room to pop, because it's going that towards that side. I'll pop 2 over there. So I'll just take the backs off those. And then what I want to do is just take that, get it nice and straight, and pop just means that then it clears the bow. Hopefully you can see that. And then lastly, I want to put on 3 of these iridescent pearls, the basic jewels, which are so pretty. I'm not sure if you can see that on there, but they've got that sparkle. So we've got one of the bigger ones. I'm just going to pop it down here, and then a small one here, and then lastly pop another small one up the top there. And that is my card made. So fairly quick and easy and simple. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please give it a thumbs up and remember to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I do a weekly card on here for the Global Design Project. So yeah, I'll be back next week. Take care. Bye.